Welcome to The Corner, La Source's digital show dedicated to the sport and entertainment industry. Every 2 weeks, we invite a professional to share their experience, background, and challenges. The sport industry moves fast, and having their insights is the best way to keep up to speed. Welcome to The Corner.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Le Corner International. My name is Leandro Montbalieu, partner at La Source, and I'm honored to be joined by John Dutton, CEO of British Cycling. Glad to be here with you, John. Can you introduce yourself to our community of listeners?
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, many thanks for the opportunity. Great to speak. John Dutton, Chief Executive for British Cycling, which is an absolute privilege. 29 years now in the sports industry. I'm very much looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, thanks a lot. You've mentioned it. You have an incredible career, gathering experience in the sports industry over the last 3 decades almost. What was your inspiration? What drove you, and what got you here at British Cycling?
Oh gosh. First of all, I regard myself being in an absolute privilege, working in sport, which creates so many memories and offers so many opportunities to many people. My inspiration when I was growing up, my sport is rugby. I was 5 years old, 46 years ago, when my dad took me to my first game. I always aspired to be a professional rugby player. When I was 19 and went for a trial with a professional club, I realised I was neither good enough nor brave enough. So I chose a career in sports administration, and I've spent 29 years working across the world, working in different sports. Having a passion that you are able to play out, sometimes in difficult circumstances, but never forgetting the privileged position which I find myself in, and also bringing joy to many people. And that's why we keep going back to sport. It is amazing on so many levels.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. So you've always worked in sports. So you never really made the switch from any other industry to going into sport. It was always your goal to end up working in sports, and maybe in rugby in particular as well at a certain point.
Yeah, I studied at university. I did a degree in sport management. Managed to, be in the right place at the right time. My first job working on the European Golf Tour, working across the world, different cultures, different places, working with different people. Then into football, cycling, rugby league, and then back into cycling, and then many different experiences in between. So I guess being a chief executive, the skills, whilst I have an enormous passion for cycling and for sport, they are leadership skills, and skills which I've learnt along the way. And even though I am 50 plus years of age, I'm learning every day. I love learning, an unquenchable desire to carry on learning. And I know we'll get into the conversation about the way in which the world is changing, the socio-economic, the geopolitical challenges that we face. And I think we've got to continue to evolve as people, but also as leaders, particularly with an evolving workforce. And obviously the pandemic, which we've lived through, and the crazy challenges, I still think we are suffering the long-term impact of that, particularly from a workforce perspective.
Yeah, and you've mentioned it, right? A lot of change in the past couple of decades, past couple of years. Maybe the change has accelerated a little bit. What are for you the kind of key changes that you've witnessed in those almost 30 years in the industry?
I think the first change is probably the way that we consume our sports and entertainment. So growing up a child in the 1970s and 80s, living in the UK, access to 3 TV channels, no satellite, and that evolution now to video on demand being an intrinsic part of our lives, to the way that we make different choices, the many more choices that we have to make. I think we can probably overlay that by some of the changes that we're seeing at the moment in terms of ethical decision making. So people standing for a purpose, commitment to sustainability. And I certainly think from a a younger generation, people know, are making different decisions to when I was growing up. And what that means is that we have to change. I'm a big fan of futurology. I think futurology is looking at the way in which the world is changing. And we have two options. We can either wait for things to happen to us and then we can react, or we can try and get ahead of that and create our business community, the communities in which we live in, and the products and services that we offer. But I think the whole sports consumption, I'm an NFL fan, watched some of the Super Bowl at the weekend. I mean, just what an incredible product the NFL is. And I think we can all learn a lot from that. And that has stood the test of time, but has continued to innovate, and not least the customer experience inside the venue. And you know, there are so many lessons from so many sports. And if you look at some of the things that happen in the UK, look at the journey that cricket has been on, and the way it's innovated with a new product, look at different short form versions of sport. And the same in cycling. You know, we govern 7 different sports within cycling, and we need to continue to stay relevant, to reach more people, and to create greater impact in community. So many changes. We can talk about private equity and investment and all of those things. But I think the ability to stay relevant is the number one lesson for me.
Yeah, I agree. And is it something that you feel that the sports industry in general is open to anticipate those changes, to innovate, or do you feel that there's a certain reluctance to be at the forefront of change?
I think there's probably a bit of both, and I would also introduce a third area. So I think the third area is protecting heritage. We look at a game of football, soccer, 90 minutes. We've seen the implementation of VAR and some of the challenges of that. But the game of football, as we recognise it now, has been protected, and that heritage is really important. And we see the same in many other sports. I think we see some sports innovate and try to stay relevant through innovation, and whether that's technology, whether that's changes to regulations, whether that's a short form version, and some sports that really have shied away from that. And that then creates its own challenge in terms of leveraging commercial revenue, broadcast revenue, the way that digital rights have changed. So I think we've got protecting heritage, staying relevant, and the appetite to modernise and to innovate. And certainly from a British cycling perspective, you know, a quite wonderful sport with a very rich history, which was born in road and track predominantly. And now we're seeing some different disciplines come to the fore. We will see in Paris, BMX freestyle, an incredible event. And if we look at urban sports as a whole, whether it's skate, breaking, sport climbing, all of these different sports that the IOC have really embraced. And I think that's a great thing, because it plays to a different audience. It engages with a wider community. It offers diversity. And hopefully my job at British Cycling is to stay relevant, keep modernising, be agile, but also protect our heritage, and you know, that acknowledgement of from where we came. The world wasn't invented today, and we move forward. The world has been through many iterations, and there's been some amazing people, amazing things that have happened, and we should protect that.
Yeah, and that's it's all about finding the balance between protecting that heritage and anticipating change and innovating, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, very interesting. And maybe let's move to your current role and the organization of British Cycling. Can you kind of inform our audiences a little bit about the organization, what the structure looks like, what the vision is, the primary role of British Cycling?
Yeah, I'm 9 months in to being chief executive of British Cycling. We are a big national governing body. We cover 7 sports, as I alluded to earlier, or 7 disciplines within the sport. We're based in Manchester. We are headquartered at the National Cycling Centre, which has its own velodrome and indoor BMX track. We put a Great Britain team on the field of play across 5 Olympic disciplines, and have a significant Paralympic team that we, fingers crossed, hope to be successful in Paris. We also govern, regulate the sport, and that's everything from the rules and regulations, working with the International Federation to uphold those, delivering the sport, but also growing the sport, and very much working in local communities. We cover a quite vast geography all the way across Great Britain. And that offers different opportunities, also offers different challenges. Our focus at the moment is modernisation, bringing in commercial revenue, particularly through our brand new events portfolio, perhaps behaving differently, but creating balance. Everything is about making sure that we have agility, but we also respect our role in terms of what we are here to do. We're a membership organisation, have just short of 150,000 members. And lots and lots of passionate people who contribute to the success of British cycling.
And what is the size of the organization? How many people currently work for British cycling?
Yeah, we employ about 225 people on our payroll. We have a number of other people that contribute more on a contract basis, or whether that's some of our mechanics, people that work around our our Great Britain cycling team. We have in the region of 15,000 volunteers who are amazing people and without whom the sport wouldn't exist. I think last year in 23, there were about 1,300 events delivered under the British cycling banner. The team that I lead cannot deliver all of those. We deliver a small fraction. So the sport, like every other sport, relies on an incredibly passionate and committed volunteer workforce. We have some brilliant people that do amazing things.
Yeah, and that's the complexity, I think, of working in a federation. You're an event organizer, you're a membership organization or a servicing organization, you're a regulator as well. You want to be some sort of an entertainment company, high performance company with the athletes. So you have a lot of different roles, a lot of different kind of customers or stakeholders. How do you kind of navigate this, and do you change your strategy depending on who you're serving, right? Or is there one particular end customer that you define yourself?
I mean, first and foremost, we're a member organisation, so our members are incredibly important to us. Many members that have been with us for a long period of time. But 9 months into the role, a rather contentious word, customer, is something that I have introduced. So we've reorganised the organisation in the most simplistic way. I love simplicity. Anything that fits on one page ticks the box for me. But we have three departments. So we have a business function that does exactly what it says on the tin and delivers the business functions from legal to people, etc. We have our Great Britain cycling team, and then we have a brand new customer function. And customer to me is everyone that we not just aspire to have a relationship with, but everyone within our ecosystem. And certainly that word customer has been semi-contentious from a member perspective. It doesn't mean to say that we're going to treat members any differently. In fact, we want to enhance our membership offer. But there are people maybe on our database aren't members. There are people who've maybe been to one of our events, but customer in the widest possible sense is the number of people we want to interact with. And we conducted a piece of research in summer, market tracker analysis, that showed about 26 million people had ridden a bike in the last 12 months. And that's about a third of the adult population in the UK. It's fair to say that we don't have a relationship with all of those people, but that presents the opportunity. And if we behave in a different way, we can still service our members in a world-class way, deliver the sport, deliver good into local communities, but perhaps that behaviour in a different way and modernising will help engage with that bigger community. And cycling is ubiquitous. We have a new purpose, which is to bring the joy of cycling to everyone. And we want to celebrate that. And we appreciate across Europe, in France, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, cycling is probably viewed in a slightly different way from a community perspective. And in the UK, we have a constant, difficult relationship between motorists, cyclists and pedestrians. And we want to be part of that conversation to campaign for more safety so people can enjoy cycling. Interestingly, we've seen an exponential growth in off-road, particularly gravel. And I think that's partly to do with lifestyle, different choices, but also the safety aspect. So the word customer I will keep gravitating back to, but I don't mean that in a difficult way to our members. And I'm really clear about customer, and that's one of the reasons why we set up our new customer department in the organization.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to become customer centric, you need to use the word customer, and you need to define your customer, right? It's a given. But you've mentioned the societal role of British cycling. You've mentioned, I think, the grassroots development, the importance of grassroots development. What are some of the challenges you face when it really comes down to developing the sport of cycling at a grassroots level in the UK in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the first challenge is pretty obvious, and I guess the same challenge is facing many other organisations at this moment in time. Quite simply, finance. To deliver anything, particularly on the highway, on the road in the UK, is expensive. To put people on the ground, coming through the pandemic, the perfect storm in the UK, cost of living crisis, soaring inflation and interest rates that have put a real squeeze on people, but it also has put a real squeeze on businesses. So we probably have to do more at the moment with less, which means that we need to behave differently to drive commercial revenue to the organisation. And we launched a couple of weeks ago a 5-year event vision underpinned by a social impact programme based on our purpose of bringing the joy of cycling to everyone. And we firmly believe that if we can create more visibility in a very diverse way, not just delivering things on the road, but also embracing urban sports, embracing the things that happen off-road, that we can drive greater social value. And I firmly believe that is the route to ensuring that we are financially sustainable in the long term, that we form different relationships with people, and the social value, which is predicated on 4 social impact outcomes, it is very much about social value in its truest sense, looking at the UK agenda, whether it's an existential health crisis, whether it's productivity, whether it's barriers that need to be removed, and whether it's climbing the ladder through social mobility. And I firmly believe that cycling and sport as a whole can play an enormous part in driving more social value. And I think if we do that, that will help with some of the financial challenges that not just we face, but many federations and I guess many clubs and rights holders across the world are currently facing. So it's recognising the problem, it's being proactive and trying to do something about it, and it's embracing a new approach and sometimes being quite bold and brave in doing that. And that's with a positive mindset and knowing along the way there'll be more than a few bumps in the road and more than a few challenges to overcome.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the word of the customers, but it's what the customers expect as well. I think more and more they ask from an organization to take a stance and to take that societal role and go beyond what is just the organization of the sport itself. So I think it's something we see in the younger generations, and it's a way of keeping that connection with the audiences and with the fans, I think.
100%. And I would use an example from my past, which is still one of my favourite memories. In 2014, the Tour de France Grand Départ came to the UK 10 years in July, 10 years ago in July. And it was an amazing moment where local people in quite rural communities came together, stood by the side of the road, saw the caravan pass through and then the peloton. And it was joyous. And it was just a way that I saw firsthand bringing people together from a civic pride perspective. I know we have the Olympics and Paralympics to look forward to, which will be very much predicated on national pride. And we will all be spellbound by the amazing athleticism and the human stories that come from that. But at a local level, seeing communities connect and come together, I just think there's something really special about that. And as society becomes more fragmented and those socioeconomic geopolitical challenges and the really crazy world in which we live in, bringing people together and creating memories together, I still think remains special. If we think about any sport, rugby, football, cycling, the appointment to view of live sport still remains special. And I think that's something that we should cherish, whether that's coming to watch a football game in a stadium with our friends and family, stood by the side of the road, or sitting in front of the TV and watching the Olympics together as a family. All of that live sport offers that incredible opportunity, and I very much think that should be cherished.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. People crave for communities and connection, and I think this is the strength of sports. It has always been, and I think it will be for the future. You've mentioned your new strategy, the new strategy of British Cycling 2024. Maybe can you elaborate a little bit on what the different kind of key pillars are of that strategy and how you plan to develop them or enroll them roll out the different pillars throughout the upcoming years?
Yeah, sure. It is emerging. So the starting point is the new purpose to bring the joy of cycling to everyone. I think if we consider a sandwich, that is the bread on one side, and the bread on the other side are our values, which have been socialised across the organisation. The difficult bit is the filling of our choice in the middle, and making sure that our vision, our mission, and then our route map, not only is just nice words that make us feel good, but is a proper plan that we can get on and actually deliver. So going back to simplicity, and the reason I love simplicity is I believe it drives clarity, which gives direction and focus to the organisation. As you explained earlier, we are this incredible organisation that does all of these things. So for the team, whether you are helping our Great Britain Paralympic athletes, whether you are working in the community developing the sports, if we can all focus on simple things and we're all very clear about the direction of travel. So we've developed a route map. There are 8 things on the route map, 4 focus areas, and 4 what I would call enablers. And quite simply, if it isn't on the route map, then it's not something that we're going to deliver going forward. And that's the work at the moment on the emerging strategy. So we have what we've called a bridge between the old strategy and where we'll land on a new strategy later this year post Paris. And at the moment, the focus is on how can we use the purpose to deliver greater social value, to make sure we are financially sustainable, and to make sure that we deliver proper benefit to our customers, whether it be members or the aspirant community in which we're trying to get to. So I'm really excited. It's new. It's a different direction for the organisation. It's been great working with my board, working with the team. I'm sure across our community there's still some apprehension, and we need to do some more work about embedding that. I'm really interested in campaigning, in making sure that we can stand for something, and that goes back to our purpose. So if we can remove barriers, tackle inequalities through providing opportunities, make sure there's no barriers at all for people to participate, to enjoy cycling, create safer spaces, and work with all the stakeholders collectively. We know we can't do everything on our own, and we're very happy to be a champion, wave the flag, be the convener, but to work with other organisations that share that same purpose. And I'm really excited by the future that the strategy presents.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the simplicity or the need for a simple strategy or a simple kind of way of explaining your strategy and finding the focus as an organization, because that's something that we see with a lot of clients ourselves. It sounds simple because it's you need to kind of find the focus and you need to be able to deliver it in a simple way to make sure everybody understands and comprehends the direction you're going to take as an organization. But it's far from that, right? It's you have all these kind of external stakeholders trying to push you in a certain direction, but you need to kind of be able to keep the focus and keep the same direction going forward, and first find the right maybe making sure that everybody's on board with the initial strategy, a simplified strategy. Often I know CEOs or people within an organization have a long form document and a short form document. The short form document is what you present to your stakeholders and what you defend, and what you use then afterwards as some sort of a tool to develop and to get your projects up and running afterwards. But it all comes with something in your mind, which is probably a little bit more complex than what you've presented to your stakeholders, and it's all about navigating that landscape and those different stakeholders, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think we can learn an awful lot. It's been great to observe our Great Britain cycling team, and I've worked in professional sport for a long time, working in team sports, individual sports. I think we can learn so much from the performance space. So if we think about our team preparing for Paris, they are training, they are conditioning, they will go and compete, they will analyse their performance, they will come back and do it all over again. And when they're being coached and they're learning technique, but those final moments before people enter the field of play will be about simplicity and about those final messages. And if we try and tell people, here's pages and pages and pages, remember it all. And when you are under the most intense pressure in competition, you will remember very few things. And if it's those few things that are on a route map from an organizational perspective, they're the things then that lead to success. I'm a firm believer that success is not an accident. Luck doesn't exist. Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And I just think that whole simplicity and what we can learn from the performance space, we can bring that back into our day-to-day work, and we can be equally successful.
Yeah, I like the comparison to the on-field performance. When I was playing football at a low level, but I also had a coach at a certain point that before the game he entered with a kind of a bundle of pages, like a lot of pages on the tactics and the analysis of the team and of the opposing team. But then 10 minutes before the game, that doesn't make sense to really go through it, and it's too complex, and you kind of lose your focus, right? So it's all about finding that focus. I couldn't agree more. And you're into the job 9 months now. How did you enter the organization? Are you a leader that takes his time and says, well, I'm going to take 3 months to just observe and take decisions afterwards, and kind of in the back office kind of writing down all of your thoughts and the direction moving forward? Or do you come in and do you take decisions and do you change things straight away?
Yeah, it was definitely the latter, but that was more predicated on the environment in which I came into. It's fair to say the first few weeks in my tenure were pretty brutal, but I knew what I was coming into. I wanted a challenge. This role has given me that challenge. I've got a fantastic chair, fantastic board, ultra supportive executive team. But it's fair to say in the first few weeks, I had to make a number of difficult decisions, including, unfortunately, reducing the headcount of the organisation to try and reduce some of the cost to the business. But I thrive on challenge, and that's what I've come here for. I have said to people, without in any way being disrespectful to my job description, I have no idea what it says. To me, it says make a difference. And that's it. And I'm coming as a leader to make a difference in an empathetic way. I sat down with my senior leadership team in the first few weeks and said my soft contract is based on TLC, not quite tender loving care, but trust, loyalty, and collectivity. And I think if we trust each other and have trust in the organisation, if we are loyal to each other and loyal to the organisation, and if collectively we tackle our challenges head on. And I've talked a lot in my 9 months about being respectful and having difficult conversations, but in a respectful way, and doing that in a really calm way. And hopefully I brought a sense of calmness to the organisation. And that again goes back to the performance space. When the adrenaline is rushing through our body, maybe when we're angry, when we're tired, when we're emotional, we will make bad decisions and try and have that sense of calmness in moving the organisation forward. And I've thoroughly enjoyed those 9 months of working with super talented people, really great partners and stakeholders, and acknowledging that we have some challenges that we can either ignore or we just front them up and get in front of things and change some of the behaviours and keep building. For however long I'm at British Cycling, I know I'm simply a guardian, and someone else will come in to replace me, and someone else and someone else. And it's about making a difference for the time in which I have imposed. But thoroughly enjoying the challenge. But it's fair to say there was no sitting down in a comfortable seat for 3 months, letting it all play out. It was the opposite.
Okay. Clear. And we've mentioned a lot the word change, and change often comes with the ability or the need to innovate. And we're all about innovation, but innovation is not just about the technology. It goes a lot further than that. But what's the overall innovation maturity or mindset at British Cycling, given it's quite a big organization? How do you try to embed the mindset of innovation in the organization?
Yeah. I mean, it's, as you have articulated very well, it's not straightforward, and it starts with mindset. So I think the three component parts are mindset, people, and then the system, the innovation, the tech, the third component part. Recognizing as an organization, we have paid teammates, we have a board, we have volunteers, we have public funding from stakeholders, we have sponsors, etc. So we have quite a bigger ecosystem, and trying to deliver change in any organization at any time sometimes can be contentious, sometimes can be difficult. People sometimes fear change. So I think that's part of the mindset, is to try and embrace. I always talk about feeling comfortably uncomfortable. And if we are prepared to be bold and brave, and if our mindset is we take risks, but we take risk in a considered way, that's very much where I would like to step forward to. And I think at British Cycling, we're on a journey. I think we've made some great strides. I think we recognise the environment in which we live in, which is challenging. But also the ubiquity of cycling as a life skill, something that brings joy, freedom. You know, we all, I'm sure, remember that very first moment when we rode a bike, when our parents let us go and explore the sense of adventure and how it brings such joy to people. And that's why we keep coming back to our purpose. If we can bring the joy of cycling to everyone, that will manifest in multiple different ways with different people. So I'm a huge advocate for change. Whilst I'm now more than 50 years old, worked for 29 years, probably have come from quite a traditional background. I'm still very proud to say I'm prepared to stick my hand up and test new things and do new things, have new experiences, and very much embrace change. I think it's a really important part of life.
Yeah, awesome. That's a nice message. And my twins are currently learning how to ride the bike, and you can see the enthusiasm and the just the joy in their eyes to be able to ride the bike themselves, and to it delivers a bit of a freedom in their mind, I think.
Freedom
riding in the park.
Freedom is a great word, and that particularly in young people who are being brought into a quite challenging environment, just to have that sense of liberation, freedom, adventure is an amazing thing.
Yeah. And maybe linking back to your career path, you've worked in a variety of sports, always in sports, but a variety of sports. I remember you mentioned the PGA Tour. You had rugby, cycling, football. What are the differences you've experienced between those different sports, or maybe the similarities? And are there certain experiences that prove to be very valuable in your current role that you take to the cycling sport?
Yeah, I think the similarities is having worked with a lot of professional athletes. It's just a incredible dedication, and whether that's a golfer, being on the golf tour 25 years ago, watching Tiger Woods playing his first Ryder Cup in 1997, and just seeing the professionals' unbelievable dedication to practice and keep getting better every day, whether that's through cycling and people that get on a bike and ride the Tour de France, just utterly incredible, and what they're prepared to put the bodies through, whether that's in my former sport of rugby league and the physicality and maybe people would say brutality at the times of playing professional rugby league. But that sense of dedication for people to be prepared to put the bodies through that for what they truly love. I think that's definitely a similarity. I think the difference is probably just over that period of time, maybe back to one of the first questions about the way in which the world has changed around us and people have had to change with that. So broadcast and digital, the whole commercial world, when I was probably 25 years ago on the European Golf Tour, the traditional approach in terms of sponsorship sales, that's radically changed, and brands want relationships. They want to partner with people that stand for something and based on the values. And I guess also one similarity is just the volunteer network underpins community sport. So it's easy to focus on what we see, the shiny thing that happens in Premier League football grounds, or what we will see at the Olympics, but everything is underpinned by that volunteer community and just people dedicating their lives to their passion. And for me, the privilege has been working with so many amazingly talented people, and I've got the chance to do it all over again here at British Cycling. I do relate to the social value and in delivering the Rugby League World Cup. In 2021, we actually delivered it in 2022 because of the pandemic. But the ability to deliver a global sporting event that was predicated on social impact and on its purpose of reaching more people in local communities, that showed to me you can make a difference by making a stand. You can still deliver an amazing sporting event, and actually people value, brands value what you can do from a social value perspective. So lots of learnings, but I'm still hopefully a few more years ahead and a few more learnings, and the world will continue to move and iterate, and we have to move with it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many years ahead of you in your current role, and I can definitely see the purpose and the societal role being a red thread throughout your career, and I feel your passion when you talk about it. So it's pretty great to hear. You've mentioned volunteering as well. Volunteering is the backbone for any federation, I think, nowadays. Is it more difficult to find those volunteers? Obviously, people have a lot of different interests, a lot of different opportunities, and maybe it's how do you keep them involved in your organization as a volunteer?
Yeah, recognizing the fragmented society, recognizing the impact of the pandemic. Volunteer numbers in cycling diminished, and I would say that's the same in many other sports. People turn to other things, found other passions in the life, and some people haven't come back. I also think it's so critically important to make sure we focus on the younger people from a volunteer perspective. We have some amazing volunteers who've dedicated 30, 40, 50 years, but we need to make sure that there is a pipeline of young people, and different people have different views now about giving up time and volunteering, particularly from an ethical perspective. We're seeing more companies, organisations making a commitment to make sure people can take time away to go and volunteer. And if we can make sure that whatever the sport is, whatever the passion is, that people have the opportunity, the sense of fulfillment, the development of just you as a human being for giving up your time to do something that you believe in is really special. But I think there's a big job, particularly from a federation perspective, across all of sport, to encourage people to come back and maybe fall in love again with the sport, having been displaced through the pandemic that we lived through.
Yes, I guess it's a joint effort for all of us, I think, and a challenge for all of us to keep everybody involved in the sports at all different levels. To wrap it up, because we're running towards the end of this podcast, we always ask the same questions to our guests. The first one is, if you had to recommend a book, series, or a movie, what would it be, and why did it inspire you?
It's a really tough question. I would go for a book. I would go for Good to Great by Jim Collins, which I have read and recently again listened to the audio version. I do quite a lot of speaking and use this as an example. And Jim Collins uses many different techniques, the flywheel to get things moving, talking about duality, having optimism, but a sense of brutal reality, head job concept, and all sorts of things. And I would definitely encourage listeners, if they haven't read it or listened to the audio, I just think it's a great example of leadership, but also how it can be applied in the work setting. And regardless of our hierarchical positions and hierarchy, but regardless of any of that, we can all be leaders in life. And I think that's a good go-to for me.
Okay, I've noted it down, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will be looking for it as well. And then, as a last question, who from the industry would you recommend we invite for this podcast, or who has a lasting impression, has had a lasting impression on you in your journey in the industry?
Gosh, the questions have been great, but they've just kept getting harder. So the
that's the last one.
This is really hard. I've worked with so many amazing people. I would recommend Chris Brindley. Chris was my former chair at the Rugby League World Cup. Chris has had a very successful career in business, in particularly in the banking sector. But he's just a fantastic human being. He's a leadership coach. He has worked across sport more recently. And yeah, the support, the advice, the guidance that he gave me, particularly during some tough periods. He is just an amazing human being.
Yeah, having a mentor throughout your career is always something that is invaluable, I think.
And I will leave you with this because I just think it's a great life lesson for myself. Chris taught me about vulnerability, and I didn't really understand what vulnerability meant. And I think as a leader, to show vulnerability is now essential, not desirable. So I'm forever grateful for that moment of telling me I needed to show more vulnerability, not quite understanding what that meant, but finding a way through it. And we live in a crazy world, a really challenging world. But despite that, amazing things can happen. We're surrounded by amazing people. And I think a great sense of emotional intelligence and vulnerability from a leadership perspective is pretty important.
Yeah, recognizing the complexity and the challenges of this world, but remaining very positive is a great mindset, I think, to have. So it's good to hear. Thanks a lot, John, for this inspiring conversation. I think we learned a lot, not only from British cycling, but also from your experience and leadership advice. I think our listeners will find that very, very valuable. To our listeners, we thank you for tuning in to Le Corner International Podcast. Don't hesitate to give us a like, share, or positive rating if you enjoy these sessions. And if you want to participate or recommend someone, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. We hope you enjoy it as much as we love creating them. If you like the episode, feel free to comment, rate, and share with people around you. You can visit our website, www.lastsource.io, to learn more about our activities. You will discover a wide range of articles and can subscribe to our newsletter to receive the latest tech and sports news in your mailbox every month. Stay tuned for new episodes.
Le Corner.